Okay, good morning. I'm Commissioner Ed Rothstein. It's Tuesday, April 26th. We are in open session. We will not be having open session on Thursday, so this is the last open session for April. Unless Commissioner Frazier would like to be here on his own, he will not be having a quorum, but that's okay.
If I can make the decisions, I'm okay with that.
Before we,
Yes, so could I weigh in then on that? Because
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Before being rudely interrupted, I will continue. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty.
Okay. Let's get ourselves moving with Priority Carol. Commissioner Boucher.
Thank you. Good morning. Mr. Swam, do we have any videos or photos coming up? We did a walk this week for Walking Carol, and we also did Earth Day this weekend. And I'm hoping to see what we have to present for. Oh, here we go. This is Earth Day at Crim Gold Park up the street from me. I want to give a special thanks to John Hubbs, who's here with us today, and the Friends of Crim Gold, which I'm a member of. It was a wonderful day. They had a lot of displays set up where individuals could show up and learn about composting, rain barrels, different cover crops. Here we are being festive. Peg, John, and Linda enjoying Earth Day. It was quite festive. Everyone had a wonderful time. Looks like there's a butterfly. And I want to thank everyone for being involved. And then we did the walk at Sandy Mount. Commissioner Frazier and I went up there. We had a very good turnout for 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I was surprised how many people were able to come out. We've had Joni there for dog. It's a wonderful event to walk your dog and chat with us commissioners. I'm looking forward to many more of these. We have them every month on up to December. If you get a chance, please go on the County Rec and Parks website and look at the schedule and come out and attend with us. It's a wonderful time to be out there with friends and family and walk your dog and chat with us. So thank you very much to everyone who was involved in that event this Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Weaver.
Okay, last, I guess Friday, we had the volunteer ceremony, or thank you to the volunteers for the Carroll County Farm Museum, and welcome of Jane Sewell as our new, manager of the Farm Museum. She just took over and be a great asset there. But I just want to take a minute and thank all the volunteers who make that whole process work out there. There's quite a few of them. The Huff Barn and the ones that drive the oxen and just help with every event. It is just unbelievable amount of volunteers that show up and help make the whole Farm Museum operate. And just one note, May 15th, the Veterans Celebration here in Carroll County coming about. Every veteran or non-veteran, it's open to everybody at the Carroll County Farm Museum. It's going to be, I think, a wonderful event. The Army six-string band will be playing, and they have another backup band. Eludes me at the present time the name of it, but we'll have all kind of events, displays. So everyone, May 15th, Sunday afternoon, come out to the Farm Museum. Thank you.
Sounds great. Commissioner Frazier.
what band was that?
The U.S. Army six-string. It's the U.S. Army Field Band, and the U.S. Army Field Band has 3 or 4 different, ensembles. And one of them
okay.
is the six-string,
Okay.
which
I don't know if I've ever heard them.
they play a lot of really, really good rock.
You will.
Cool.
60s, 70s, 80s rock. They're
Good stuff.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
All right, I won't mention the walk in the park at Sandy Mount, which I attended, or Earth Day celebration. If you notice the second picture, I was in the second picture. If you go back to that second picture, you
Well,
see,
they went with
you
the
see the
better
side of
looking
my
of the
body.
two.
You see my arm. It's hard to miss it, but okay. And the volunteer appreciation at the Farm Museum with Commissioner Weaver. So I won't mention those 3 things. But there's a great picture right there. The Westminster opening day ceremony for our baseball program. I threw out the first pitch. And since no one is here that was there, that was like a 90-mile-an-hour pitch that went right in there. It was unbelievable. I mean, from
Did it
my
make it to the plate though.
my perspective, it looked like 90 miles an
Well,
hour.
this kid's calling for a change-up, so.
I know.
Look,
I have to
none
say,
of us have boots on.
You didn't have to
Dennis.
reach very far, I have to say that. Although I did go to the side and practice first, and the first pitch I threw in practice went right into the dirt. I have to say that. So I adjusted with the next pitch by throwing it over his head.
Well, you didn't have to.
By the time I got there, I actually got it kind of honed in. But
Kind is the key word there.
well, you know, he was a good catcher. Let's just say that. He made me look good. He went, put it right back in. There he is. Nice job.
You're
Nice
saying
job.
I had to catch for him.
He thought it was at the highest honor of his life so far, or something like that.
Were you standing halfway between
Okay.
the mound
I
and the
wish.
plate?
Okay, I also went to the Battle of Books at Westminster High School for all the elementary schools, and I have to say, it was much louder than the Battle of the Books I'd been to before. Also, because there's so many more teams there and so many more people. The stands were right around the basketball court were pretty much packed. So there's a lot of people there. It was a great event. Took a little while to tabulate the scores because I guess there were so many teams and it was so close. So they want to make sure that they got it right. So it was a nice event. Also was at the Magic ribbon cutting for the new offices on 38 West Main Street. Very well attended. And, you know, big supporter of technology in Carroll County, even though I don't understand most of it. And that's all I have.
Okay, I'm glad, Commissioner Wentz, you get to follow that.
Wow, I don't even know. Whatever. Okay.
They should keep that baseball picture up while you're talking. Just make you seem better, that's all.
Well, so right after the opening ceremonies, I attended both of my grandsons are playing in the Westminster. There's a picture of. Never mind.
Commissioner Frazier's
There's,
photo.
they had a 11 o'clock game,
Okay.
and someone happened to mention your name about how it was a brand new ball, and when you threw it, it was dirty. I don't know what that was. I just went, okay. So, anyway, Little League is in full bloom, and for us grandparents, assisting parents on getting kids to their Little League games, especially when you got two playing at the same time, it's going to be fun for the next month and a half. So, I know all of you out there understand what I'm saying. So, I was halfway to Mount Airy the other night and got turned around when I was told it was rained out. So I'd like to ask the Little League guys to get a little bit more ahead of the weather. That way I wouldn't have to get halfway to Mount Airy. Attended the Baltimore Metropolitan Council meeting on Friday. That is always an honor to represent Carroll on that. A lot of great things occurring there. Including a good bit of transportation and transit monies that are going to be coming through BMC and their sister, the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board, the BRTB, to our counties. And they're working on a lot of great things there. And the BMC is just a great organization. So I was honored to be in that meeting on Friday morning. Wine Stroll was in Westminster on Saturday. I don't know that I've ever seen so many people out there. When you stood down at the railroad track and looked up Main Street, it was just crazy. But congratulations to the city. It appeared as if everything went off without a hitch. Ton of vendors, more than I've ever seen before there. And I'm glad they had good weather, and congratulations on a successful event. Just more... more great things that occur with our municipalities. Here's a picture of that. I'm going out of order, Chris, so he's back there frantically typing things in. So anyway, Francis Scott Key, as all of the other high schools, I believe most of all of the other ones, performing their spring musicals. I was at that on Friday night, and it Shrek, the musical, and it brought there's my granddaughter right there in front
Which
and
one?
center.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, getting ready to dance with Lord Farquhar.
That was I went Saturday night.
Yeah.
That was hysterical when a guy came out on his knees.
Yeah. Yep. So these kids are incredibly talented, and man, it brings back a lot of memories because I did the musicals at Key all 4 years when I was there, and so They're still, yeah.
It's in the
So they're
genes.
following in my footsteps, and I'm very proud of that. And all of those kids, including the band in the pit, they were good. I don't know how they memorize all those lines.
That's
It's
what amazes me.
crazy. But anyway, congratulations to all of our students everywhere across the county who have been putting on great musicals this year. It is really entertaining. If you want to catch it, Key is still Friday night this week, and then a matinee on Saturday at 1, and then Saturday evening at 7, and Fridays at 7 too. If you want to catch a great event, I encourage you to go out there and see these kids. It's remarkable. So again, to everyone that's been doing them, great job. Saturday night, I represented us at the Carroll County Historical Society Gala at Antrim. A lot of fantastic people there. All of you know how I feel about the Historical Society and what they do for our county. And I want to say congratulations to Richard and Dort Mollett, who own Antrim. They are again listed as one of the top 25 country inns in the country. And if you haven't been to Antrim, I encourage you to go up there. The gardens are just amazing. Food is tremendous. So if you get a chance, visit Antrim. But congratulations to the Historical Society on a great event. They raised a good bit of money that evening, and it was a great time. Reminder, tomorrow, you probably will bring this up, Ed, the 50th anniversary of our Bureau of Aging and Disabilities. Congratulations. We have two of our ladies in the audience today that are going to be coming up here shortly, but we're going to be honoring them tomorrow for 50 great years. And as I've said often, we've got the best anywhere. And then we're also tag teaming with Special Olympics tomorrow. And it looks like the sun's going to be out and it's not going to be too hot. So rain's in and out of here tonight, so that's a good thing. So it was a busy weekend. But commercial for the Francis Scott Key High School. Make sure you get out there on Friday or Saturday if you haven't seen a musical yet, wherever you are, and support these great kids. A lot of talent in this county. I think that's it.
Okay.
I agree. we
So
have
there's
a lot
a
of talent.
few things I just want to share. Like Commissioner Frazier, I participated in Battle of the Books. Mine was down in Century High School. There were 35 teams, and I had the opportunity to MC the event. And as I've shared, I have my own challenges with depression and other, anxiety. And when you have 35 teams and I was going to say stadium, but bleachers full, it is very loud. So it was either be consumed by them or take charge. And I decided I was going to take charge. So the first thing I did was have every kid in that room scream as loud as they could. It was deafening. And then I had them do it again. And it was just so enjoyable. I got the opportunity to walk around, asking the questions. I was going in and out of the stands, getting all the kids involved that were with the parents. And it seemed like everybody had a really good time. And it's awesome. One, having everybody together, but two, the energy about reading is just awesome, and about our education. Just gives us the it highlights us, with the public library, but also with our schools and our teachers and our parents, that are working with our kids in reading. I'm so deeply impressed. Last night I attended the Taste of Carroll. That was the venue was 1623 down in Eldersburg. They did a great job opening up all the doors of 1623 and had this large tent behind it. Of course, the best food you're going to find in the state was right there. And more importantly, the purpose of this was to support our Carroll County Hospice and LifeBridge Hospice program. It was great seeing everybody, and it was great watching everybody empty their pockets to donate and raise as much money and awareness for the importance of the hospice here in Carroll and Lifebridge. So really kudos to that whole team putting it on, to the leadership from Leslie and Neil and Garrett that oversaw it, and 1623 especially for having the venue. I was humbled by being a part of that. This evening, although it's not for others to now join in, Lions Club event that I will be speaking at, talking about our veterans, and it's a veterans event. And the reason I'm just sharing this is that Lions Club are just great organizations in our community that know how to give back. So if you're wondering what opportunities you want to, have or take on, and what programs, Lions Club or those like that are really, really cool to take care of Carroll County and our community. So I look forward to that event this evening. We do have the 50th anniversary. I would like Celine to share more about that and the activities when she comes up, which is about right now, because we're going to talk about the CARES Act
about
and
right now.
the vouchers. So what's going on, ladies, about additional vouchers coming into Carroll County via the CARES Act?
Okay, did you want me to start with the 50th?
Sure.
Just since you ended there. We do have our big 50th celebration over at the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities. It's open to everyone in the community. It's going to be tomorrow morning, starting at 10 a.m. It's going to be an exciting event. There's a lot of different activities scheduled. The opening ceremony will be inside for those looking to stay warm. I think it's going to be a nice 56 degrees tomorrow, but no rain. So we're looking forward to that. But we're going to open with many different guests that are coming to recognize our years over the last 50 years. We also have AARP coming to recognize that they have allowed us and appointed us access into their age-friendly community initiative. So we'll be launching that at this event and receiving a citation from them. So that will be very exciting as well. And that will be a full community engagement opportunity. But please come out. There's food trucks on site. We will also have line dancing, a walk Carol event on the backside of the building on our nice walking trail there. Bingo with some vendor prizes and a lot of information about our services with the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities as well.
Bingo is mandatory.
Now, Commissioner Fraser and I will be a little late. We have the Special Olympics first, but I'll drag him over later. So.
I know
At
we
his
had-
age,
Will
it's
not miss line dancing. I remember that a couple
walkover.
years ago.
oh,
Why do you
it's
remember one or two of
it's
them?
a sight most people have never seen.
Or want to say.
I saw it.
I saw it too. It is embedded.
We're hoping to have the drone going around recording everything this year.
They're just haters.
Okay. Go
Okay.
ahead, Celine.
All right. So the other reason we're here this morning, another very important cause, is that we are here. I'm joined with Danielle Yates, our Bureau Chief for Housing and Community Connections, and we're seeking approval to submit the application and accept the award for 10 additional mainstream housing choice vouchers for Carroll County, as well as the included what they refer to as extraordinary administrative funding. We were notified on April 6th of 2022 by the Department of Housing and Community Development of an additional non-competitive award of mainstream vouchers authorized through the CARES Act. You may recall that we came before you in October of 2020 to accept a similar award of additional mainstream vouchers. We got an additional 40 at that time, which increased our total to 109 mainstream vouchers. Our additional vouchers that we have to accept currently would be an additional 10. And if accepted, that would obviously total 119 mainstream vouchers for us. I'm going to turn it over to Danielle so she can talk a little bit about the voucher eligibility for the mainstream and also our planned use for the additional administrative funding.
Good morning, Commissioners. So as Celine said, we already do administer the Mainstream Voucher Program. So the purpose of the Mainstream Vouchers are to provide assistance to non-elderly persons with disabilities who are either transitioning out of an institutional type setting, such as a nursing home, or at serious risk of institutionalization, an individual who is homeless or at risk of being homelessness. With the Mainstream Voucher, there is a criteria. They are non-elderly persons with disabilities, so individuals who are between the ages of 18 and 62. eligible member of the household does not have to be the head of the household. They just have to be within that household makeup. And the eligibility for the voucher is actually determined at the issuance of the voucher. So, as Celine said, what they do is they have extraordinary funding. HUD has acknowledged that it is a labor-intensive program because there is a specific criteria and many documents that we have to retrieve in order to verify that individual qualifies for a mainstream voucher. In light of that, what HUD has said is they want to make sure that we appropriately have funding to take care of the necessities for the requirements, so they're giving us additional funding to support that program. The funding that we'll receive just supports the time and effort that our housing specialist, our program manager, and our housing inspector actually spend to administer the program for the mainstream vouchers. Are there any other questions that we
I
have?
see in the report it shows 35 million in HUD funds going out. What is the monetary value that we'd receive in totality?
So-
what does it add up to?
So what happens is it's actually kind of like a ratio that they do. So based on the number of vouchers that you actually have leased up is how they actually give you money or provide you money. When you look at our program as a whole, we get a little bit over like $6.5 million to run our Housing Choice Voucher program between the housing assistance payments and the administrative funding to administer the program. So we always get adequate funding to support those costs. It's always based also when you look at, it's called HAP, which is housing assistance payments. It's going to be based on the units we have leased and the bedroom sizes, because that's how we figure our payment standards. So HUD kind of has a whole formula that they use
So
to
it
ensure.
could potentially fluctuate based upon the need.
Absolutely. And how many units are fully leased up within our housing authority.
Well, thank you. And by the way, I hope you get out to Crim Gold and walk your dog more. It was
We
good
do
seeing
all
you.
the time. We love Crim Gold.
Excellent.
The housing vouchers, are we, is there a greater need now, I'm guessing that there is, because of the way rents and all are going up? I mean, I've seen some astronomical rises just from reporting
Yes.
on rents going up 30%, 40%, 50%. I mean, I don't understand how people can actually make that adjustment. So my guess is more people are going to be turning to you for
Absolutely.
these housing vouchers.
And what we've seen so HUD gives us our restrictions as far as income limits, and what it is called fair market rents, which is how we set our payment standards. And what we've seen is our income limits have increased this year, meaning, of course, families can make more to qualify. And what we suspect is in October, when fair market rents come out, they're going to increase as well, based on what we've seen.
Yeah, going up tremendously.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this?
With that, I'll make the motion. The Board of Commissioners approve the application and acceptance of the mainstream vouchers, non-competitive opportunity for additional vouchers authorized by the CARES Act and extraordinary administrative funding.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I think I'm going to be there, right? Yes.
9:45.
Really?
What time's line dancing starting, just in case?
So I'll avoid it.
I think at 11. I think there's two different line dancing sessions.
I'm going to try to make it by 11.
Okay, sounds
Look
good.
forward to seeing you. Thank you,
sir.
ladies. Okay,
Have the drone ready.
from that, let's go to the courthouse annex piping repair. Sir.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. We are requesting your approval to use term contractor First Class Mechanical for the emergency piping repair at the courthouse annex at a cost of $49,253, which includes all the material, labor, and equipment to complete this project. This amount is within the project budget and no additional funds should be needed. And I will turn it over to Justin if you have any questions about the project.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We're here today to award First Class Mechanical the contract to perform emergency repair work on 4 heating and cooling lines at the courthouse annex. The current lines are original to the building, which has begun to leak in an underground pipe chase in the building. First Class Mechanical will be removing approximately 2,400 feet of 4-inch pipe and installing new Schedule 40 carbon steel piping with mega press fittings, along with 4 new valves in the boiler room. All 4 new steel lines will be insulated with an 1.5 inch of fiberglass insulation. Once all the supplies are on site, Commissioners, the project will take about a week to complete. And we just got word yesterday that we will be starting this project with your approval, excuse me, on May 9th, Monday morning.
Mr. McDonald, you said there was a leak. Is there a damage that has been caused? How soon was this called? I know that leaks can cause a lot of problems.
From what we can tell, our maintenance staff doing building checks caught this fairly early in the stages. There was a lot of water in this underground pipe chase, which we pumped out and cleaned out and found leaks underground. So I'm going to say no later than a week is when we picked this up.
Good.
In doing so, like I say, it was a heating line, so we had to drain the heat down and turn the heat off, and they've been without heat until we get these parts. Luckily, the weather's been cooperating a little bit more with us. And like I say, Commissioners, there's 4 pipes in there. You got 2 heating and 2 cooling. So if we're in there doing the heating pipes, they're the same age. So we're going to go ahead and replace the cooling pipes that are right beside each other at the same time.
I must say, when I seen the numbers here with 2,400 foot of 4-inch Schedule 40 pipe, and that 49,000 includes material, labor, and equipment, that is a deal. You're making out or we will make out very well. I move that the Board of Commissioners award the contract for emergency pipe repair services to the Courthouse Annex to First Class Mechanical in an amount of $49,253.
Second.
But
Go ahead,
I was
please.
going to say, I have a question first. It says you're using fiberglass insulation. Is that the most effective insulation nowadays?
It is,
I thought
for the
like
heating and
spray
cooling
foam and
lines.
stuff like that would be better.
Yeah, no, they'll wrap those 1.5 thick fiberglass. They'll wrap those 4-inch lines, and each 90, 45, they'll wrap it with fiberglass and then coat it with a elastic or like a coating on it for better insulation.
But that's like state of the art right now.
That is, yep, that's the normal practice, I should say, Commissioners.
The old system didn't have asbestos wrapping, did
It
it?
does not.
Thank goodness.
Are we fortunate? Well, we're obviously fortunate to catch it. Was it by luck catching this, or are there standard?
Our staff, we have a mechanical room inspection where we go around weekly to listen, look, hear, visualize mechanical equipment. And in the boiler room, we found some water in this pipe chase, so then we looked into it a little deeper and traced it out to this issue.
Is weekly inspections good enough, or should it be done more?
We do weekly. Usually we do boiler checks on Mondays and Fridays, so we kind of do it 2 times a week. After the weekend, we check them, and then right before the weekend, just so if these problems come to arise, we don't have the weekend to not having it addressed.
I mean, I had a building once that over the weekend it happened, and it flooded 2 floors of a very large building. So, we moved to daily checks because of just that.
Right.
And we were just fortunate that we didn't have to condemn that building.
Yeah, and back to that, Commissioners, when our technicians are in the buildings, obviously their first train of thought is go into the mechanical rooms, go in, look and listen, hear, see, be visualized, visualize the equipment. So even if they're working on an air conditioning system, as you're passing through a mechanical room, listen, look and see what we got going on, just for these issues.
I mean, I feel like we're going to approve this. I'm just trying to understand the process. Is this putting basically a Band-Aid on a belly wound that we're just kind of patchworking?
This will complete the entire piping underground.
Okay.
3 years ago, we had an issue, if you remember, out in the courtyard, the courthouse annex, where we had to dig up the courtyard to replace some pipes out in the courtyard. So this is the end side, which inside the building, which we are going to address now. So 100%, the piping will be all complete new underground.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Appreciate that dialogue. With that said, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Digging.
Thank you.
Thanks
Okay,
for being
now
on
let's-
top of your game.
Let's talk about a F-250 crew cab that wants to be purchased.
Good morning.
Okay, again, we are requesting your approval to award the purchase of one 2022 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 with an 8-foot bed from Apple Ford in the amount of $48,625 $1,000,000.36. This purchase is being made through a Baltimore County contract that was competitively bid. This amount is within the budget, and no additional funds should be necessary. And I will turn it over to Reed if you have any questions about the vehicle.
So I think we finally got lucky for once when it comes to vehicles. This was an order placed by another municipality, and they ended up canceling. So we have the opportunity to pick up that order, purchase the vehicle, and the two things that make that exciting are we get to buy it at contract pricing, even though no one can order vehicles right now, and the vehicle already has a production date set for May 9th, so we can expect to have this by June. So with that being said, with your approval, we'd like to take advantage of this opportunity, replace a 2008 Ford F-250 that is assigned to the Department of Solid Waste, specifically used at the landfill. And upon arrival of the new unit, we will go ahead and send that old unit to auction.
That's great news. Good work.
I'm impressed with the price.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, at first, I had to check the year that the truck was made. I thought it might have been used.
So, and Cliff and I have been working on this for a while, actually. And our only other option at the moment would be to shop around at local dealers to see what they have in stock. And yeah, we'd be looking at 60 couple thousand for a truck.
That's
so.
why I did a double take.
Yeah.
I moved the Board of Commissioners award the purchase of one 2022 Ford F-250 Crew Cab from Apple Ford in the amount of $48,625.36.
Second.
Okay, try and do it yesterday. That's great.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Wonderful job. Thank you.
Mr. Zaleski, why don't you come on up? Let's talk about the FY23 proposed budget and the intent to release. Well, I see 89 slides in that slide deck.
Could be.
You're not going to do that to us, are you?
I'm looking forward to this.
Well, this is more for the wider audience. than it is for
Absolutely.
you.
That's kind of hurtful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
I thought I was to take the top one and pass it on.
It is 89 slides.
Here's a bit,
All right.
but I'm sure it'll be riveting as always.
We'll stay awake.
Okay, sir, this is your show. There you go.
Okay. So the fiscal year 23 proposed budget and our 23 through 28 operating and community investment plans. As much as is here, this is not an attempt to cover everything. There's just so much that goes into this. So this is largely to try and talk about what are the important changes, what are interesting changes, and to give people some sense of what we're looking at. And just for others listening, this is a reminder, this is the point in the process where the budget becomes what the commissioners are offering to the public. Up to this point, we had been working off of a recommended budget that we put together, and now this is the commissioners asking for your comments and input. Okay, so as we talk about from time to time, we have an open budget process. Budget sessions are open to the public. You can be here if you want. Now with COVID, that got a little messier at times. Now it's not an opportunity for you to involve yourself in debate, but you can sit in person and watch if you want. The sessions are shown live and replayed on Comcast Channel 24. We stream on the county's YouTube channel. You can go to the website and find the meetings. Now, because of all this, anybody who's been following along is not going to be surprised by anything we say today, but I'm assuming that not everybody has been following along.
You can also go to the county website calendar and find links to the videos. We put out news releases. We also have Carroll Connect, where you can sign up for email notification of things that are going on. You have information available on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. So the big message of these two slides is there's a lot of information available. It's not unusual for people to say, why didn't I hear about this? Why is this being done in secret? And things like that. And the answer is it's not. The information is available. But as I say from time to time, we can't go to every door in the county and knock and explain to you what's going on.
You don't want to?
No. There's some responsibility on you, if you want to be informed, to take advantage of the information that's available.
Ted, the other piece is that myself and colleagues are available and responsive to the community as they reach out to us as well. And that's, again, the way we do business. We make ourselves that way. So I appreciate that from the others sitting around me. So, okay.
And thanks for stating that, Commissioner.
So how are we going to go about this today? We're going to kind of come at this from a few different angles, which will mean we're going to hit some information more than once because we're talking about it in a different context. But first, we'll be talking about the actions the commissioners took during their proposed budget deliberations. Remember, the starting point is the budget that's currently in place and the plans that are currently in place. Then, with new information and reacting to changing circumstances, we put together a recommended budget and plan, which we brought to the commissioners. That was the starting point for their deliberations. So that moves us into the commissioner actions. Then we're going to talk some about the state budget choices they made, because that always impacts us and agencies like the school system that we have an interest in. Then we're going to talk about changes from the current budget and plan. Some of that is the actions of the commissioners, but in building that recommended budget and plan, there were other changes that we made in establishing that starting point. Then we'll go through the budgets of our governmental partners and the commissioner agencies. Now, there's a lot of information there, and I'm not going to stop on everything. Some things we'll just say, okay, there it is, nothing too interesting, but in some places we'll stop and talk a bit more about what's going on. And then we'll talk about the community investment program, our capital budget. And again, there's more there than we will stop to talk about, but we will want to highlight some things. So, commissioner actions. Okay, so remember, as we look at each one of these are choices the commissioners made during our recent proposed budget deliberations that were after we had put together the recommended budget and whatever changes were included there. So they added $2 million of ongoing funding to Carroll County Public Schools. That was built into the plan with a 3.13% increase, or about $6 million. So this is another $2 million on top of that. Carroll Community College, they had a 3% increase built into the plan. Commissioners added $500,000 ongoing on top of that, which the college intends to use to add another 2% salary increase. Added $200,000 for some maintenance projects at the school system, and $2.4 million for an artificial turf field. Carroll County Public Library, they were built in with a 3% increase. Commissioners added $200,000 on top of that. Their intent is to use that for a salary increase. And they're looking to match what we have built into our plan currently. And a big part of that for us and the library was meeting maintenance of effort, minimum wage laws that have gone into effect recently. And then the commissioners also added $1.1 million in fiscal year 23 for technology purposes for the library. This is intended to meet their needs for the next 6 years. Public safety, sheriff. Now, this is a place to stop, and we'll be here a couple times because this is big. We had a 4% increase, salary increase built into the plan, or about $800,000. The commissioners added $2.9 million on top of that $800,000, and that follows another big change in fiscal year '22. And we'll talk about the combination of those things in a few minutes.
Excuse me, what would be the total percentage increase they're going to receive next year?
I think it's 22. Well, no, that
We had 4%.
there's another slide coming up, and I do have some information there.
Thank you.
Commissioners moved the capital project for a new sheriff headquarters from fiscal year 25 and 26 to fiscal year 23 and 24. And what goes along with that is the start of ongoing operating costs starting earlier as well. And then we also budgeted for renovations to an existing space that will be vacated for pre-trial operations to move into. That would be in the current sheriff detention center building. These EMS. Now this gets a little complicated because we're in the middle, not in the middle, we're in this early stages of a transition from relying solely on Volunteer Emergency Services Association for fire and EMS services to our combined force. So the first thing there where it says salary increases for EMS, this is to provide additional funding to the volunteer companies who are hiring people to provide EMS. In fiscal year 23, that's another $400,000. In fiscal year 24, that drops to $300,000 because they will have fewer employees at that point. And in fiscal year 25, the plan would be they would no longer have those employees. They are all employees of the county at that point. And then similarly, salary increases for EVODs, emergency vehicle operator drivers. And I think as we make the transition, we are going to be using a new term, fire apparatus driver operators, FADOs. But same kind of idea here. There's some money included in 23, that will go down in 24, and then if all goes according to plan, in 25, that's no longer necessary. And then there was one-time funding of $44,000 for some rescue equipment for the Reese Fire Company. In the circuit court, you added funding for a jury clerk position. The judge was here during the process to talk about the increase in jury trials and their inability to administer those. Animal control, adding an animal control officer. Interestingly, this is the first time they've added a position in 40 years. And we know a lot has changed in 40 years in trying to take care of the county. And fire administration. So this is our internal operations here, not the providing of services. Well, I shouldn't quite say that. The first bullet there is we're adding $4 million ongoing for providing those services. We're adding that now because in the 22 budget, we tried to project what we thought the cost might be. Work has continued between then and now. At that time, we said, we don't know enough to tell you this is the right number. Now we're thinking we're getting closer to the number. But even now, I'd say there's still some uncertainty, but we ought to be getting pretty close to in the ballpark now. Public Works, you added 6 positions. The first 3 of those would be in facilities. The next one in permits, next 2 in permits. And then the landfill equipment operator is actually in the solid waste enterprise fund. And then you also agreed to $200,000 of funding to contract out the maintenance work at the detention center. So this means we will no longer be devoting our time to that, which is in a sense, a position increase for them. And you added $4 million to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, not for any specific expenditure at this point, but just in recognition that we are going to have expenditures. It's probably a good point to stop and remind people what's happening here. We have a landfill. Its life was running short. We've been transferring waste to other jurisdictions for years in order to not use up our landfill. But we have an unsustainable financial situation in the enterprise fund. We have to use general fund dollars to make that work. Been a lot of discussion in recent years about what we can do about that. We don't have an answer yet, but the commissioners took a big action last year in purchasing additional land around the landfill, which will open up options for us that we didn't have before. We know that there are going to be big changes to make. We know there are going to be big expenditures to make. But at this point, we have not even yet done the master plan for saying, what do we want this to look like? So this is putting aside a little bit of money to say, we're going to get to all that someday, and we know we're going to need money. A few other things. You put $3 million into an infrastructure reserve. We've been talking for some years that we're trying to get a handle on what does it take to renew our infrastructure over time. We're not there yet, but feel pretty certain that we're going to find out we need more money than what we're putting in now. This would be another way to have a little bit sitting there. And then you put $1 million of one-time funding into AgPres. We have ongoing stream of funding. This was an additional amount to just allow another few easements to be purchased. We're starting what is now intended to be an annual veteran celebration that was unbudgeted. So we're adding this so it's in our plan for future years. A few one-time pieces of funding to some of our nonprofit service providers. And then you added 2 positions for human resources. This is in connection with the ongoing work we're doing to examine the organization, our compensation, our classification programs. And we've talked about an idea of transformational change. And we've talked about an idea of needing to focus more on how do we build for the future, not just react to laws and administrative things we need to do today. And the commissioners recognize that if we want that to happen, the people they have are already fully used, so we need more people to be able to make something happen. Now, I probably didn't really label this right. It shouldn't just be called salary. But again, with that ongoing effort, what we're talking about is changes we need to make in the county. And when we talk about changes, so we're saying we have gotten to a place and we think maybe we need to be somewhere different. I think it's important for people to understand, we're decades getting to where we are today. Many choices to do things, not do things, how we are going to do things, reacting to the world changing around us. So this isn't something that just suddenly popped up. This is something that has been evolving. Then COVID came. And we were very worried that we were going to see a significant loss of revenue. Now, because of the federal stimulus, that never happened. But that started a process back then of self-examination. We were saying if we need to make big changes, what are our options? Where are we going to look? And started digging into things, finding out a lot of things, thinking about a lot of things that hadn't really been at the forefront. That eventually led to the commissioners agreeing to get an outside consultant to go further with that than we were able to do with our internal resources. So this is going to be an opportunity to rethink things and try to act on some of that. So we have $7 million set aside. This could be used in a lot of different ways. Much of this will be about compensation. And we'll come back to this in just a little bit, some of the conversations we've had about our concerns.
Yeah, but I agree that the title is misleading. It's, being proactive from the outside study and needs of our county. So it could be positions along with compensation. I mean, there's a whole lot more than just salary. So I agree with you, and I definitely agree that we should have this money aside to do this. But from outsiders looking in, it can be very well perceived as, oh, there goes government trying to fatten themselves up.
Yep.
That's not what's happening here. There have been positions that have been gone away in years over time. And we are looking at how to become more efficient to serve our county, and it's not fattening the county. But that's, unfortunately, what could be a takeaway from some folks. So
Yes, and we will come back to some of those ideas a little bit later. And, it's funny, this happens to me every year. Doesn't matter how many times I go through the presentation, I sit down and say, why does that say that?
right.
And it's going along with your analogy there. Instead of fattening us up, it's actually trying to keep us from starving.
No, absolutely.
Really
No,
what we need.
Absolutely. It's just the challenge is perception of
Right,
folks,
I understand, yeah.
Have this, oh, there goes the county, the ivory tower mentality, and it's not. It's how do we ensure that the roads are taken care of and that the fire EMS is put in place and everything else.
Yeah, and like I said, I was going to come back to this later, but since we kind of started this, we may as well talk about it here. To Commissioner Frazier's point, to keep us from starving. I think that's a good way of looking at this. For years, we've maintained services and levels of service. We've added levels of service. We've been mandated to do things that weren't part of our picture before. And we've been doing that without adding a lot of positions. And in fact, when we hit the Great Recession, we eliminated about 100 positions. Most of those positions have never come back, but we never made a choice to stop providing services or to reduce services. So we've been going more than a decade trying to maintain not only the same level of service, but actually more, because other things have come our way with fewer people. And it's always been a problem, but it's been a rapidly growing problem in recent years. We find that we are getting fewer and fewer applications for open positions, and not we're getting 22 instead of 25. Sometimes we're getting 5 instead of 55 kind of change. And in those applications, we're finding fewer and fewer qualified applicants. You might get 10, but 9 of them have absolutely no qualification for the job at all. We find that we're going through a process, and people apply, they've been interviewed, we want them to come here, we get to the point of the offer, and they say no. And usually that is because they had expectations for a salary that we are unable to meet. We have jobs that we have to post multiple times, and now we have a growing list of jobs that are just posted until filled, because there's no point putting an end date on it anymore, because we know we're not going to get enough applicants to have the usual process that we have. So we know we have problems here, and we have to do something about it. And this, back to the bad title salary. The point of what we're talking about here is not to simply give more people money because they're going to like having more money, and they will. I always like when my paycheck gets bigger, but that is not the point. The point here is we're starting to worry about our ability to provide the services that people are expecting. You can't provide services without people to provide them. And we are struggling now. And in some places, we're struggling badly to find the people we need to be able to continue providing services. And in fact, we have a growing number of places where we're contracting out to other people to provide services because we've been unable to find somebody to do it internally. And in those cases, we're not doing it because we think it is fiscally the best move. We have places where we contract out for that reason. But in these cases, we're doing it because we've been forced into it, not because we want to. So all of this, underneath everything we're going to be talking about, is how do we continue providing the services that we intend to provide?
And if I may, for the public to put this in context. This isn't about a bunch of administrators making a lot of money. This also affects our blue-collar working class that work for the county. You know, it's difficult to hire someone with a CDL to drive for the county if we're only going to pay them $13 or $14 an hour. That this will help uplift the blue-collar workers within the county government so that they can have a competitive wage or salary in line with the market that's out there. And I think that's the biggest difficulty for us. We are so out of sync with the economy and the market that's going on for employment. And this will ultimately help a lot of the working class people in the county to bring them on, attract them, retain them. I think, what are we running around an average of 10% vacancy in our staff or something? Hopefully this will address that. So I sincerely appreciate all the effort you and staff have put into this.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You know, our problems are not any particular spot in the scale. It runs from one end to the other. And some of the jobs you're talking about are a bigger problem than they once were. One of the reasons I mentioned the minimum wage laws changing is because minimum wage has gone up.
Question.
People have more options now for jobs that compete with the lower end of our scale. And it's been years since we've had every roads position filled. We can't get and keep people there. So this is about everything that we do. Okay, fund balance actions. When we're talking about fund balance, you know, but people usually think about surplus. There's money left from a previous year. One-time money, commissioners can use that for various purposes. In the fiscal year 23 budget, there's a net change of almost $25 million that is by the use of fund balance. The biggest part of that is for one-time uses. So it's in the budget, makes the budget grow, but it's not an expenditure that will be there again next year. There is about $4 million of this that is being used in 23 to cover what will be ongoing costs. Then, so we have the 1% of budget that we always put in, that we bring up from a previous year. And then from fiscal year 21, we used about $37 million. We have a projected $20.5 million that will be available at the end of fiscal year 22, the year we're in, that was not touched in any way. So that will still be available for consideration in the future. Let's talk a little bit about the state.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. Because, you know, I always say, you know, if the state has a budget problem, we have a budget problem. Right now, they don't have a budget problem, but they're making some interesting choices that might be budget problems in the future. So, some of our governmental partners are also funded significantly by the state. Carroll County Public Schools, they're getting about $160 million, $10.5 million increase. It's important to point out, though, that what people might remember as the Kerwin Commission, eventually turned into blueprint legislation, has a lot of new requirements for expenditures. So this $10.5 million isn't just a free 10.5, go do what you think is best. A lot of this is tied to specific things that they are mandated to do.
Yeah, but they are mandated to do these things, but my assumption would be that there are things that the public schools need to do, because the commission did look at all this. Maybe Carroll County said we could use this money here instead of there, but this money is going to be valuable to them. In fact, if we could, I'd like to find out exactly how this $10.5 million will be used at Carroll County Public Schools, to see what it's going to be used for, because what I'm hearing outside is that, oh, well, we can't actually use this for the, okay, but I'm thinking it's going to be used for something useful. The state's not just giving you $10.5 million just because projects they want it. These are things that are well thought out.
Yeah, and I think they would agree that things would be useful, but maybe things that were not in their plans to spend
Right, I
money
understand
on.
that.
Now, as far as how the 10.5 will be spent, you would have to get something from them. The best information I have right now is the same information you've seen, which is the list of things that money could be spent on that was larger than the amount of money that they have. So I don't know what choices will be made.
We do have an upcoming joint meeting with them.
Right.
Ask them. And their intention, when it had been tentatively scheduled for yesterday, was to have some kind of a budget update for you. So I don't know exactly what they meant, but I'll make sure this is.
And Carroll Community College, this is big news. They're getting $11.1 million from the state, an increase of almost $2.5 million. Years ago, I don't even remember when it was, there was legislation passed that's commonly called the CADE formula, which was supposed to tie state funding to community colleges to state funding to the University of Maryland system. And until this year, it was never fully implemented. They kept passing legislation that said, well, not this year, we'll get to it next year. Well, next year finally came, and it is fully funded. This is a big change for the community college. Carroll County Public Library, they get a little over $1 million from the state, a small increase. And just a reminder, this is practice. This is not set in law or anything like that, but the library system for years has used this state funding for purchasing of materials, books, DVDs, CDs, etc. And the health department, they get over $2.5 million from the state, another small increase. Now, looking at state funding that actually comes to you, highway user revenue, we got a small increase. There was a lot of talk and excitement this year about returning to former levels of funding. Didn't happen. I know people were very optimistic, and I felt kind of bad about it sometimes. People were so looking forward to this, and I was saying, I don't know, I don't believe it. But, you know, it didn't happen. So we'll continue to work with what we have. We're glad to have it, but, you know, getting more didn't happen. Police aid, small increase. Program open space, got an increase of about $600,000. It's fairly significant, but, you know, program open space, I mean, every year we just have to wonder, okay, what's the state going to do with program open space this year? It's very hard to count on what's going to come out of it. And then there's another $500,000 grant we got for rec and park projects. Okay, now we're going to talk about things that changed from the existing budget and plan to the proposed budget and plan. So some of this is about the choices you made. Some of it is about things we did in the recommended budget, you know, reacting to new information. Now, first, so where are we when we say how did it change? This is where we are right now with your proposed plan. Of course, the big thing to look at here is the bottom line, where we have an increasingly negative situation. Now, the Commissioner's legal obligation on the budget is to adopt the fiscal year 23 budget, and that has to be balanced. Doing this plan is something we choose to do. Nobody requires it of you. Now, I think there are very good reasons for doing it, and I absolutely believe in having this balanced. This isn't, and we're not going to get there now. My hope is that we move back toward that again. But for the moment, this is the picture that we have.
It's very useful to put it all in perspective.
Yes, if nothing else, it makes us face what we're really up against.
It's like not being able to pay your mortgage in the future.
So changes, we talked about $4 million earlier. This is a little bit more detail on that. We've increased the number of anticipated positions by 24. Actually, I think we have another number later. This has been a rapidly changing situation, and we've kind of bounced around different numbers.
That was 242. No?
Right, that's why I was just saying, I thought you think we have a different number later. So we might not have gotten back to fixing this slide. Salary plan. So this is among the very biggest things in this budget and plan. So in fiscal year '23, they'll be getting a $3.7 million increase in salary. $800,000 of that was built into the plan. You added $2.9 million to that. So in answer to your question, Commissioner Boucher, it'd be a little over a 22% increase in fiscal year '23. And that follows after the actions of fiscal year '22, where you added a similar amount of money on top of a 4% planned increase, and that lifted them to about a 14% change. So when you look at what's happened in the last 2 years, I think this is a incredible demonstration of the Commissioner's commitment to funding our law enforcement. I don't even know what words to use to say how big this was. And this doesn't change these numbers, but we also have to think, when we're building our plan, this is actually money that goes into the paycheck, so we still have to deal with pensions and payroll taxes and all that.
Workers' comp, liability, all of it.
We mentioned the $7 million that was not in the existing budget or plan. That is in here now. We also included $500,000 of one-time funding, just on the possibility that there will still be some things we want to just react to in a one-time way, but I don't know what those are yet. Okay, we talked about salary increases for the school system, the college, library. When you look at the whole plan, all those raise the line for every year. Animal control, we added a position that will have to be paid for every year. And then in Visa and EMS, we talked about that phasing. So that one actually doesn't affect every year, but affects several years of your plan. Public Works, a lot of changes in Public Works from the existing plan. First, one everybody would think about, I think, fuel prices. We're reacting to the change. My hope is that we've built in more for the future than we're going to need, that maybe things will eventually settle down and we'll see gas prices come down, but we're not counting on that yet. What we're doing is preparing you for the possibility that we need to continue operating this way. You've seen the price of replacement vehicles rising. We're trying to deal with that. Of course, we have no way to say what things are going to cost, but we're trying to provide more room than we would have otherwise. We talked somewhere along the way about we had a batch of dump trucks we bought that turned out to not be what we wanted. It didn't work out, so we have a little bit of a bubble we're trying to catch up on. We talked about changing the program for replacing sheriff's unmarked vehicles. We're going to be accelerating them, and we think the combination of the faster replacement but greater resale value will lead to maybe little or no net cost to this change. And then there are 11 new positions for Public Works. We talked about 6 of them, the 6 that you added, but we also added in fiscal year 25 or 26 additional positions, recognizing all the new buildings that we've been taking on. You talk about the State's Attorney Headquarters, the Sheriff's Headquarters, the Charles Carroll Community Center, and the old Change Building. That's about 125,000 square feet of new buildings that need to be taken care of.
All those buildings might wind up with leaky pipes like we heard earlier. That's why this is so critical.
Yeah, and hopefully that's not a problem in the near future, but that does take us back to the renewal of infrastructure, because we know eventually those kind of things have to be
Adds
dealt
to
with.
the scope of what they have to do.
Now, we acted on this a couple months ago, but we had to address it in our new plan. The existing plan was built on an idea that we were going to landfill 55,000 tons a year. That's now 27,000 tons. You added a position. You put $4 million aside for that eventual changes to the landfill. We have a project for transfer station floor replacement, and we have a problem that came up with Bark Hill that we have to take care of. In utilities, we have projects for two wastewater treatment facilities that serve schools. So this is not part of the water and sewer system where we're serving regular customers. These are specifically for the schools. And you have proposed water and sewer rate increases. Just a reminder to you and to people who are listening, the budget is built on those rate increases. And those increases were set by calculating what do we need to continue running the system. Without those rate increases, we would have to not do something that we believe needs to be done. And don't need to get into it here, but we have a bit of a cash flow problem in the Utility Enterprise Fund right now. The general fund is going to loan $2 million to the enterprise fund. That will be paid back. So this is not money that will be picked up by the general taxpayers. It will all be captured in the rates over time. And then we increased the planned amount for the money, the revenue sharing plan you have with the towns. That's in reaction to population change and inflation change, both of which are part of the formula. Transfer to capital, this is cash we put into the capital budget so that either where you can't bond or we choose to avoid bonds. We added $5 million to what we call general government unallocated. This is a capital project that makes appropriation available to you but is not planned for anything. The reason we did this is because of this cost environment. There are concerns that projects that we've budgeted might come in over what we budgeted. This will give you some place to go to fix that if that's the path you choose. We did that in smaller ways in Public Works and Rec and Parks with $700,000 and $100,000. The $3.2 million for Charles Carroll Community Center. You might remember we added funding during the year. We had to borrow from an existing capital project to make that happen. This is restoring the funding to the existing capital project and setting up Charles Carroll. And then there was $1.2 million for the microwave network. This was in connection with a piece of the network that we found out Motorola would no longer support, and we had to react. Pension, we reduced our assumed earnings from 7% to 6.75%. This is something we've been talking about for years, and I believe we probably should be talking about going even lower. The problem is, the lower your assumed interest rate, the more money you have to be putting in. So it's not a freebie. In this case, we did add $600,000 of additional funding. We were able to do that. We're going to talk about LoSAP in just a minute. We believe our necessary commitment to LoSAP is coming down, and we diverted a little bit of that to making this change. Did I say LoSAP? I didn't. You did. I meant OPEB, other post-employment benefits. And then another big change, we reduced medical costs throughout the plan. And this has been helping us for a lot of years now. We keep planning with an assumption that things could turn, but we've gone a long time now with very good experience in our medical costs. And then here's the OPEB I talked about. Our actuaries are telling us that we can significantly reduce how much we're putting into this. And you might remember we have a plan where we're reducing $1 million a year over six years. And the reason we did that rather than just reduce it $6 million was we wanted to see more actuarial studies come back saying the same thing before we made that commitment. We will have another study coming up. I'm hoping that it's going to confirm what they're telling us and that we'll be able to stay on this path or potentially even accelerate. And then debt service, there are changes, but this is all about timing. This isn't actually a long-term savings. The only time that happens is if a project just goes away or you replace planned bonds with cash. And I said LoSAP earlier, now I intend to say it. We had a ramp up of funding built into the plan. We've backed away from that because we've gotten the fund into a much stronger position now. And I'm thinking that in the next study, we're going to see it's even stronger than we realized because in this year's budget, you put $1 million of money into LoSAP, which has not been captured in an actuarial study yet. And then EZNet, this is part of the 911 network. The state is picking up $150,000 of ongoing costs that we had built into the plan, so we were able to back away from that. And we got capital funding from the state for the sheriff's headquarters. That allowed us to back off of $3 million that we had planned. Okay, we talk a lot about the general fund or operating budget, some about the capital budget. Enterprise funds come up a little bit. We have even more than that. If you add up all of our funds and say, what is our total budget? $23 million, that's a bit over $700 million, up from about 680 in fiscal year 22. Saying what that change is almost impossible. I have 2 pages of notes here. Well, a page plus of notes of things going up and things going down. There's no easy answer to what is that. If we look just at the operating budget, a hair over $500 million, up from $474 million. On the revenue side of that, I remember we had a couple interesting stories this year. Income tax. Been trying to figure out what's going on, what's real, what's going to be ongoing. We made a significant change to increase the income tax line. Property tax, we got a larger assessment than we had planned on. That helped us out. And then recordation, the continued hot housing market led to more revenue than we would have counted on. And then again, on the expenditure side, a lot of things going up, a lot of things going down. And do keep in mind, though, we talked about how much one-time money went into the budget. This $500 million isn't ongoing. $37 million of that, I think, was one-time money. So you really would want to back that out to say, what's the ongoing commitment. Now let's look at where that leaves various service providers. First, our governmental partners. Carroll County Public Schools. You're giving them $213 million, an increase of about $7.5 million. And debt service is going up about $500,000. That's just in connection with the projects that are happening and the timing. Community college, you're giving $11.5 million. About a 7.5% increase. Adult basic education's flat. Entrepreneurship, small increase. Library, $10.5 million, 5% increase. Cable Regulatory Commission, I'm not going to stop there. Community Media Center, it's not a big change. Just want to point out that their funding is driven by the part of the cable franchise fee that we give to them. Subscriptions are no longer growing the way they once did. Is this going to plateau? Is this going to start to decrease? Those are going to be interesting things for us to talk about. Public safety. Courts, you added that position for a jury clerk. Sheriff, we've talked about already. State's attorney, nothing interesting happening there. Animal control, we talked about the position. LoSAP we've talked about. Fire and EMS we've talked about. Okay, here's the 242 position number that you were recalling. So this is the plan, let's say, as it exists. You've talked about some options, I think indicated some preference for an option, but I don't believe we've made a decision yet that this is the plan. So right now, the operating plan is built on last conversations. Citizen services, not much happening here. A couple one-time funding things for nonprofit service providers. A small increase to the health department. Board of Elections going up $400,000. Part of this about change the primary election, expansion of voting hours. We've talked some about this. That this is an area of concern for me because costs are growing and they are all passed on to us. County pays 100% of the cost of the State Board of Elections. And you are not making the choices.
So then we passed, what bill was just passed, a 50-50 split on that?
That's on capital stuff.
Capital.
Oh, just capital.
It's not operating, but that's gonna help.
Yeah.
Because it was 100% across the board before.
Well, the state has participated in projects, but it was not in law saying that they had to. So now this makes it no longer a choice, but that's the way it works, unless they pass a new law.
What do they consider capital stuff, though? I mean, one of the big expenses with this that has kicked us in the teeth for the last 15 or 20 years are voting mechanism changes. I mean, right? That got changed several times.
Right, yeah, so
Is
voting,
that capital?
yes, voting machines, poll books, those kind of things are what we would expect them to be 50-50 partners on now. Nothing really here. The existing plan for your employees, and we include the courts and the state's attorney here, even though they're not your employees, because historically they have followed along with our salary plan. So before any changes that we might take on, and we're talking about the $7 million and what might come out of that, the existing plan has COLAs of 3.5% a year, followed by 3%. That was to meet the minimum wage law. But a problem that goes along with meeting the law then is if you lift the minimum wage but not other things, you've created compression with what people are paid. So that's what that 2% is, to move other people through their scales. So that's where we stand right now. Okay, some stuff's going to come up on the screen. Here's where I'm going to stop, where I think there's something interesting to talk about. We talked a good bit about Public Works. This is a significant increase, but you've already heard what's behind that. So the big story as I'm going through these things is there's not much happening in most of these budgets. And an idea I like to go back to, sometimes we build plans, we build in certain assumptions, and where we don't have a specific assumption, our practice in recent years has been to build in an assumed 3%. That doesn't mean every budget's going to go up 3%, though. Every budget gets evaluated every year. A few might get more, many end up getting less than what was built into the plan. Okay, economic development, you see a $300,000 decrease. This is not actually a decrease in funding. The tourism is funded through our hotel tax, which is a special revenue. Accounting determined that the expenditure really ought to be in the special revenue. So this is moving. The same money is being spent. Nothing is really changing. Okay, human resources actually goes down. We talked about, the good medical experience. We have a prescription rebate built into our current contract that has been working very well for us. And we have a stop loss on certain costs that has been working well for us as well. And then moving the other direction, but in a smaller way, the two positions we talked about earlier. Okay, so that's the operating budgets. Now I'll turn to the capital side. There's just a high-level summary. As I'm sure you remember from other years, the capital budget will bounce around a lot. Just depends on what projects are happening in what year. Schools, in '23, about $50 million. 10.5 of that is money that is being transferred from our operating budget to the capital budget, the other way around, capital budget to operating budget, to pay for debt service on bonds we've issued for schools. So this isn't a new expenditure. This is paying for something that was already in place. So the two big projects are Career and Tech and East Middle School. We did get a late addition of state funding that will allow Spring Garden Elementary School and Oklahoma Road, says elementary school, that should be middle school, HVAC replacements. Be a roof replacement at North Carroll Middle School and window replacements at South Carroll and Westminster High Schools. Then other things that just happen every year. We've talked some about the new state funding system. Well, the old system is still in place, but now there's the addition of the Maryland Stadium Authority and those projects. It's still not entirely clear to me exactly how this will all work. For now, we're just working our way through the projects that are getting approved.
I have a question about the window replacements for schools, just because I see it all the time. You know about how often we replace windows at a particular school? Is there like a 10-year, 20-year cycle or something of that sort?
Much longer.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Basically, the windows are being replaced because modernizations aren't happening.
All right.
And that's true, when we talk about, roof projects, HVAC projects, windows, electrical, those are all things that would be captured if we were doing a full modernization or replacement of a school. Because we're not doing that, we're getting some of the pieces. And on replacing of roofs and HVACs, like I said, we did get a little bit of funding late in the process that allowed some projects to move ahead. But there's still a big question about what are we going to be able to do moving forward? Because the big projects are eating up all the state funding that we feel like we really can count on, which means they might not, I'd say probably aren't going to be involved in a lot of systemic projects. But we know the need is there. Just want people to know I'm not going to go through all these projects, that just because the school system asks for a project doesn't mean it happens. The list of things that aren't happening is much, much longer than the list of things that is. Roads and bridges. The bulk of this money is for taking care of the roads we already have. $16 million worth of preserving our roads. I'll point out Ridenhour Extension, a little bit down the list there. That's money we have budgeted to extend a portion of an existing road down in Eldersburg. Two other projects that are new in a sense. Georgetown Boulevard already exists, but this is to construct part that doesn't exist. And Monroe Avenue already exists in two pieces. This is a project to connect those two pieces.
And the money's already set aside for these projects? Right.
Included now.
Yes.
And just like schools, just because we have road projects requested doesn't mean they happen. We can't fund every good idea. Here are some things that are not happening.
Wait, I apologize. Go back to that.
Yep.
What is not included The sidewalk, Johnsville Road, I think is being done now, isn't it? Or is it,
There's more than, it's,
there's more
all of
pieces?
Johnsville isn't one project.
So it's not covering all the way to the elementary school,
From Barflow to the elementary, but not past.
but not,
There's already a path.
yeah, there's a path that goes down that covers Eldersburg Elementary. It's just not a sidewalk, it's a, path.
Well, that part's what's being connected, so if you,
Yeah,
from that part that goes down.
right, yeah.
To Barflow is what's being what's being
Right.
constructed as we speak. I believe this goes the other direction towards Cannon Drive and towards, 26.
Okay.
But there's already, I don't know, personally, I really don't know the details on that, we could find out, because there's already a macadam path that goes.
Yeah, there is. That's what I mean. It's,
So I don't know what
Yeah.
this is supposed to do.
right, because it's not a sidewalk, but there's a
Right, it's like a
very,
trail.
yeah. And it,
And part of the reason why it's not in.
yeah,
You know,
okay.
it's, these are both expensive projects.
Well, yeah, Freedom Ave is very expensive. One, if we have to go on one side, we'd be taking people's property, and on the other side, there's, yeah. So it'd be great for that to happen, but I mean, it's a tough one. So, okay, got it. Thanks.
Bridges, we always have bridge projects going on. Probably want to point out here, Shepherd's Mill. This is off of 75 as you go between New Windsor and Union Bridge. This will be a fairly expensive project for us. So 300,000 is just the first piece. Here's some more of the bridges coming. And more bridges coming. AgPres, the ongoing funding remains in place, and you added another $1 million. We assumed 500,000 from the state. It's been hard to know what to count on. It could be that we'll get more than $500,000. Us not putting it in doesn't keep it from being spent, though. Stormwater, clean water, water development. This is that other side of what I talked about earlier. We borrowed money for Charles Carroll and now are getting things back in place. As always, Rec and Parks is where the most action is, and that's because of program open space. That's money can only be used for those projects and isn't competing in any way for other projects that we're going to be looking at. Nothing I really want to stop on there.
Freedom Park is state property,
Yes.
and we lease it. I mean, is there a way we can get the state to do this, or is it our improvements, our requirements? I mean,
I would guess that the answer to that is no. I don't think they have any interest in spending money on developing or maintaining it.
it's their property.
Yeah.
So, maybe we could like dig a hole and say, "Hey, there's safety here. Fix it." So. Okay. It's just there's been a lot of attention put on Freedom Park lately. It's awesome. I mean, state of the art. We're getting a lot more funding and contributions. So I've learned more about Freedom Park in the last year for all the right reasons. But okay.
I know this much about landlords. If you ask them to spend more money on your property, they raise your rent.
Honey Run seawall. That's just taking care of a existing piece of infrastructure.
Is seawall the right word? Shouldn't it be lake wall? I'm just saying, it's
Good point.
It seems to me.
Never know when a tsunami's gonna hit.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Delusions of grandeur.
Or drop the A in
calling it a
seawall.
reservoir? Is that delusions of grandeur?
No, the seawall.
Okay.
Okay, just,
You go there, you will see the wall.
well, I know, I mean,
Or they just
crashing
build it wrong.
waves.
That's right.
yeah, there you go.
Typographic
All right.
error.
My biggest thing to point out here, the Union Mills Recreation Area, you had several conversations about that land purchase for a reservoir that now has an existing trail system on, and wanting to make changes there. What's budgeted now is the master plan. The bigger money will be coming in the future, but we don't know what that is yet.
And real quick, since I seen Union Mills on this, I want to let everyone know that this weekend is the plant and garden sale up the Union Mills homestead. So if you are a gardener, please get out there and visit the homestead. Sorry about that.
The systemics at the community college is pretty much an ongoing thing, taking care of that campus. I mentioned the 2.4 for an artificial turf field a little bit earlier. We have $600,000 budgeted for our next master plan. We put this in the capital budget so that we don't have to worry about year ending and money not being spent. Mentioned the general government unallocated of $5 million to you before. Health Department storage building. They had concerns about running out of space in the building. We believe that this relatively inexpensive addition on the outside to move stuff out of the building will take care of their concerns for a while. We talked about the library technology, 6 years of funding all in 1 year. Piney Run Dam rehabilitation, this is just the beginning of the funding for that. Radios, ongoing. You see the first money for the sheriff's headquarters. Nothing really noteworthy here or something that hasn't already been talked about. And again, we have projects that are asked for but not included. And this is not the whole list by any means.
It's important just to say what's not included does not mean it's not important, and it's not a priority to that organization or to us. It's,
Just ran out of money.
dealing with the overall priorities, but
Yeah, it says complex is
a
not
lot of
in.
these are really good ideas
It is.
that we need to put attention to in the future, but,
Yes, and occasionally somebody will ask for something that we look at and say, are you really asking for this?
right, yeah.
But most of the time, they're very reasonable arguments, sometimes even compelling arguments for doing things.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
if there's not enough money, choices need to be made.
senior center renovations, absolutely, is important, and we know that. It's just how we're dividing up the money to meet our budgetary goals and obligations, so.
Okay, then we move into enterprise funds. Falling behind on my paper. Airport, business as usual. Solid waste, we talked about all of these things already. The fiber network, there will be spikes in expenditures in 26 and 28 for replacing equipment. Utilities, like Rec and Parks is a place where there's always a lot of stuff going on. I think probably the biggest thing to mention here is after years of discussion with the state and the town of Sykesville, we're going to be getting to work on the Main Street water and sewer upgrades.
Yep.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, and many wouldn't, the Freedom water and sewer system, goes back to the 60s, but the Sykesville system, I'm not sure exactly how old it is, but it is much older than that. mentioned the rate increases earlier. Here's what's included in the proposed budget. Also included are some changes in solid waste fees. And again, the proposed budget is built on these changes. Okay, we will have a public hearing on May the 10th. It'll be not at the community college this year, but at the Carroll Arts Center. Budget adoption is scheduled for May the 24th. And the budget will be available not today, but in the near future on our website. And we didn't include on here, but tomorrow night and Thursday night and 2 nights the week after that and 1 night the week after that, I will be visiting 5 libraries with this presentation, run through this with people, take comments, input, praise for the commissioners.
That's pushing it. Mr. Zaleski, if I may, I had in my calendar the May 10th budget hearing at the Ag Center from somewhere. Is that?
That's a mistake on that,
All right, thank you.
the Arts Center.
Something
I
came
read
over.
that somewhere else earlier, too.
Yeah, I think we're having some technology issues with our
Yeah.
calendars. Thank you.
And then I have my email and phone number up on
I'll
the
be by myself.
up on the screen here. As always, I say, if you want to advocate for or against something in the budget, the path you should take is to contact the commissioners. The policy decisions belong to them. But if you want to say, where do I find this? Why does that number look the way it is? Glad to hear from you, and I'll try to help you get the information that you need.
Okay. Really appreciate the information provided. Recap for us and continuing dialogue and sharing with the community. Any comments, Commissioner Frazier?
When you go to local libraries and go around, is that up on our website so people can see that at times? I just make sure it's up there. And also want to emphasize that our budget hearing is in person. I'm still hearing people, we tell them, it's virtual. No, it's not. We're doing in person this year. So so there's a little bit of confusion about that. So it is in person. This is Carroll Arts Center. Make sure
Yes.
that's out there. Because I like people to show up,
Okay, Commissioner Wentz?
All good.
Commissioner Boucher?
I just want to thank staff for everything they did to put this together. Not only our budgetary department, but each individual department out there puts a lot of time and energy into composing this with the budget analysts. I think the budget analysts are behind the scenes, are unsung heroes. I want to thank everyone out there who put their time and energy in putting this budget together. Thank you.
Commissioner Weaver?
Just ready to go, see what happens.
Yep, same here. Understand, we do not delegate the authority that we have, and look forward to listening to folks and making a sound budget decisions and moving forward. Ted, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted.
Okay, let's go on to, Chris, is there any public comments at this time?
I have nobody online.
Okay, thank you.
Hard to believe, but okay.
Going to open admin, I have closed minutes from April 21st on land acquisition cybersecurity. Need a review and then
I don't see that.
you don't.
Oh, wait, okay, yes, I do see it. The mark is, okay, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second for the April 21st closed session on land acquisition cybersecurity. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anybody have anything for the good of the group or good of the community for open admin at this time? Roberta, anything? Okay, 101, you come on up. And let's walk ourselves through the first week of May.
Wow.
On
That's just not possible beyond that.
May 2nd, we have nothing. On May 3rd at 8 a.m., Commissioner Wentz will be giving a chamber breakfast up at the Tonytown Public Library. Commissioner Boucher, Frazier, and Wantz will, well, yes, you will be
He
attending
better be
since
there.
you're talking.
We'll see.
I'll see if I can make it or not. But at 7 p.m. that evening on May 3rd is the 7th Annual Drug Overdose and Prevention Vigil. And we have Commissioner Boucher, Frazier, and Wentz,
I'll be going to that.
and all five of us will be attending that at the Portico at St. John's
That can be
in
a rough
Westminster.
one.
On Wednesday, May 4th at 4:30 p.m., I will be providing some remarks at the Infinity Center down in Eldersburg. It's a center dealing with autism.
I believe I signed up for that as well.
Was it? Okay.
I'm signed up for that as well.
And
No
then,
remarks, I'll just be there. to
Planning
support
Commission
Commissioner.
will be virtual. Commissioner Wentz will be participating at 6 p.m. that evening. On Thursday, the five of us will be attending the Sheriff's Annual Prayer Breakfast up at the Pleasant Valley Fire Company. And then we will have open session starting at 9. We'll start off with a Maryland Association of Counties presentation from Mr. Sanderson and Ms. Price on what's happening from their perspective and the results of MACO over the past year. Looking at acceptance of the Burn Justice Assistance Grant Award from our sheriff, FY22 grant for buses and bus facilities from DPW, and we'll be going into closed admin after that open session. On Friday, May 6th, we have nothing scheduled. On the 7th, I will be participating in Mr. Bergamashi's Eagle Scout Court of Honor. On May 8th, Commissioner Weaver will be providing the podcast. On May 9th, we have nothing scheduled. On May 10th, we have a joint board meeting at 3 p.m. with the Board of Education, where we will all be participating. At 7 p.m. is the, as just shared, the proposed budget public hearing. Oh, that's where it says Ag Center. It's not at the Ag Center. It's at the Community Arts Center at 7 p.m. On Wednesday, May 11th, is Carroll County Employee Appreciation Day, and all five of us will be attending at the Ag Center. Board of Education meeting where Commissioner Frazier will be attending at 6:30. That's at 5 p.m. And then 6:30 p.m. is the annual Career Connection Banquet. Commissioner Boucher will be attending. On Thursday, we go into open session, May 12th. And currently, we have very little right now, but it's the Workforce Development Corporation will be talking about grants and memorandum of understanding with the Division of Rehab Services. And then we will have an option to purchase the Stephen R. Booz property through the Carroll County program. And Land Resource Management will be presenting. On Friday, May 13th, is the 15th Annual Fallen Heroes Memorial Service down in Sykesville. Commissioner Frazier and Weaver will be attending. I gotta check my calendar. I'm not sure why I'm not on that either, but we'll check on that Friday. I just may have a conflict. On Saturday, we have nothing. On Sunday, Commissioner Boucher will be doing a podcast, and we are really looking forward to, at 12 p.m., the Veterans Celebration at the Carroll County Farm Museum, and hoping all of us will be able to attend that. I see you're not attending. You may be out.
I'll be there.
So, okay. So that should be an awesome event. Really looking forward to that. Did I miss anything?
No.
Tim, did I miss anything?
No, if everybody's going to be here next Thursday, I can bring the noise ordinance and the Police Accountability Board ordinances back if you need.
Do we have a choice about being here or
Yeah,
not?
if we must.
I mean, we're in the open session. I mean, you tell me. Okay. With that said, I think we are done for the day. I need a motion
To adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, because it's Tuesday. If it was Thursday, I would say.
Okay.